Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Ryan Pennant from QWare, and today I'll be presenting Paribus 365, our solution for cleansing duplicate data in Infor CRM. Now, besides being a powerful tool for cleansing duplicates from Infor, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised to learn that it also enables users to be more productive and enjoy a better user experience. Now, I'm going to be taking you through a live demonstration of the solution, and afterwards we'll have some time to answer any questions you guys might have. So please feel free to use the questions area in the GoToWebinar, and either a QWare staff member will answer them during the presentation, or we'll take care of them at the end during the Q&A session. The presentation should last about 30 minutes, so we'll get you back to your day here pretty quickly. Also, there will be a recording of the webinar made available over the next couple of days for your convenience, so hopefully you can enjoy that. All right, sound good? Well, let's get started then. So, just want to give you a little bit of background first on QWare. So we've got over 23 years of Infor CRM experience. We've been with them since the beginning. We also are developers of complementary CRM products sold worldwide. And besides the Paribus 365 data cleansing solution you'll see today, we also have a phone integration for Infor called IntelliCTI. But enough about us, let's continue on, shall we? So I really want to discuss the negative impacts on having duplicates in your system. Some of it may be obvious to you, but for others, maybe not. And of course, if you need to have some leverage for the powers that be, I'll be glad to help with that. But first of all, duplicate marketing, right? So if you are sending out email marketing campaigns via email or print, which has made a big comeback, obviously you're paying per piece that you're sending out to your contacts. Now imagine you have hundreds, if not thousands, of duplicate records, okay? And so you're sending all this information out needlessly, you're paying for it, there's a material cost with that. Also, a much bigger cost, I think, is the lack of a single customer view within the system, okay? So for example, if I get on the phone with a customer of mine, Mr. Bob Smith here, and I want to look up his account because he's got questions about licensing or some products he owns, how in the world can I help him here if I'm not sure which record? I'm now having to go through each of these records. He's getting a bit frustrated because I obviously don't have all of the relevant information in one view for him. And of course, I'm being frustrated as a user as well. Extremely inefficient, right? And of course, this ultimately leads to poor customer service, right? Can't help Mr. Smith if I don't have all this information on screen. And of course, all of this can have a negative impact on your brand, right? Whether you're sending out duplicates to people 2 and 3 times, and these are your customers, and you're thinking, why am I getting 4 or 5 of these things, and of course, not being able to help your customers as necessary. And of course, from a user perspective, right, it's very inefficient. I'm very unproductive when I'm swimming through multiple, records in my system, trying to figure out which is the correct one. And obviously, data is the lifeblood of your system, right? So, if you have all of these duplicates in your system, how accurate is your reporting? And of course, from your reports, you're making key decisions based for your business, right? And if obviously your reporting's wrong, your decisions may in fact be wrong as well, right? So this is really where Paribus 365 comes in. Now, keep in mind, this is a back-end tool, if you will. It's really for the power users, that be the data stewards and your system admins. And it's going to help them, of course, identify and merge duplicates in bulk, right? All behind the scenes. So while there are some pieces I'll show you that the user will be able to see, but the actual job is going to go to your power users, okay? So keep in mind. Now, the real power of this product is in its match engine, which allows us to perform searches on accounts, contacts, and leads using phonetics, okay? Whether photo starts with an F or a PH, or Cheryl with an SH or CH, right? And of course, even if things are misspelled, but they're phonetically similar, like Jupiter with an extra U, we're going to be able to identify those as potential duplicates. Also synonyms and abbreviations, right? The Williams, Will, Billies, those are going to be found as potential matches, as well as international business machines, IBM and I.B.M., right? Those will be considered matching records. Sequence variations, whether it be Florida University, University of Florida, and even data segmentation. We don't care if there's spaces, hyphens, underscores. These will be potential matches as you go through, all right? So let's take a look at how all this works. So some very highlights of the product. So it is a batch tool. So it can identify potential duplicates, right, in mass, hundreds if not thousands at a time. It also will merge those as well, right? So in consolidating, creating a better record when you're done, right? That master golden record we're looking for. You do get unlimited match and merge. And though it's very configurable, and I'll show you a lot of the power here today when we're actually looking for matching records, but if, and as well as the merge tool itself, but if you want to customize it, there is an SDK for it. You can have us do it, or if you guys have the in-house skill sets, you can do it as well. Now, keep in mind, this is a Windows application that does connect your Infor database, though there is a bundle that gives a little bit of the UI to the end user as well, and we'll take you through both of those. And the setup, very quick if you have the prerequisites ahead of time. It's basically 20 to 30 minutes max, okay? So it is very fast, and if you want to try it as a trial, you can do that as well in the same amount of time. And again, keep in mind, it is for the power users, your system admins, not for the end user. All right, so let's review how the process generally works. So there's really three parts to this product. First, the identification of potential duplicates, then we'll allow you to review them, and then of course the merge. So the first off, we'll run what's called a match session to find some potential, in this case, duplicate contacts. And Paribus may come back and say, hey, I've got three variations of a Bill Dixon. And we can see that the name spelling are different in each of these, even the account, but depending on how you have the similarity threshold set, it will come back and say, hey, I think these are duplicates, okay? You'll of course be allowed to review and approve those. And then once you actually run the merge engine, we will consolidate these records, okay, creating a new master golden record, right, which will consolidate some of these fields, right, enriching the surviving record, bringing over all of the child records as well, okay? All right, from today's demo, I'm going to, of course, take you through the whole process. We're going to create and run a match session, allow you to review it. We will merge that and, of course, show you what happens within Infor as well. All right, so let's take a tour, shall we? All right, so I am going to be actually working off of CRM today, so I'm going to refresh this here. So we're going to show you a live merging of records. But to start here, we're going to go and begin finding records. So this is the Paribus data cleansing tool, okay? First thing we're going to do here, working from the bottom, is connect to your CRM system. That's the data provider, right? This is where we are going to be actually looking for and merging data. As part of the system and the setup, we give you some predefined templates that have everything you need to begin running merges right out of the gate, okay? So we have what's called data sets, just basically tells Paribus where to look for the records and how to display the information out of your Infor database. Match conditions allow you to search for other things that you want to match on. Now, the primary fields are always going to be account, contact, and lead name, but obviously that's not enough. How many IBMs and John Smiths do you have in your system that obviously aren't duplicates? So the match conditions are, what other things do we want to match on? For example, for an account, we would want to look at address, right? They're not going to have the same name and address, or for a contact, they're not going to have the same name and email. Those will be duplicates. And of course, these can be custom fields as well. Moving up here, match sets is really a template within within Paribus that allows us to match on accounts, contacts, and leads, and we'll include all the different match conditions and so forth. But really, 95% of the product the user is going to spend here, and that is running match sessions. So we're going to create match sessions based on our data sets, and we're going to run them periodically as necessary. Now, generally what you're going to want to do from a best practice standpoint is clean up your accounts first, okay? Reason for that is, let's say you have 5 IBMs with a John Smith under each one of those. We really want to get all those John Smiths under one master IBM account. So we would merge the accounts first, and then of course clean the contacts. You don't have to do it that way, especially if you're not an account-based or account-centric organization. That's fine. In this case, we will of course run from accounts. Now, the other thing is, what we really want to do is go after the low-hanging or easy fruit, if you will, right? So for example, those accounts or contacts that are 100% matching on whatever criteria we're searching on. And for an account, it would be address, right? If the name and the address are identical, it's definitely probably a duplicate. There will be an example, an exception to that, and I'll show you as we go through here, right? So generally we want to clean up those that are 100%. That'll make the review process very fast, quick, and then of course, as we start opening up the fuzziness and looking for account names that aren't exactly the same and addresses that allow some variation, the low-hanging fruit, if you will, the 100% matches would have already been removed, making your review process much easier. Okay, as we can see here in my screen, I've got account name, right? I got one that's set at 100% similar, right? So they're exact matches, with the address being a little bit different, allowing for variations and suite numbers, stuff like that. And of course, account name at 85%. I also have contacts here, which we won't go through today. But now what I really want to do is show you how to create one of these match sessions. And you can see I have one at 100% 85. So what I really want to do then is create one maybe in the middle. So I'm going to create one at 90%. So I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to create a new session. And it's going to ask me, do I want to do accounts, contacts, or leads? Obviously, we're going to do accounts here. Okay. And once I select that data match set, it's going to backfill a lot of information for me already. All I now need to do is give it a name. So I identify that I want to make this account name 90% similar and the address 90%, okay? Which is going to drop me right into those guys. And we are going to be matching specifically on account name. That's our primary thing always. And how we set that similarity, which we set as 90%, we go down here to the match methods, and we have this nice little slider which says, how similar do I want the account name? And in this case, I indicated it's going to be 90, so I can just set my slider to 90, okay? And then the next thing is the full address. So I want to go here under match conditions, and here's all those match conditions you saw here earlier. And of course, again, these could be custom fields if you want to match on those, but we're going to make it simple. We're going to choose that full address, which includes address lines 1, 2, 3, city, state, zip, country, right? I mean, county as well. So I'm going to go ahead and choose that. And then now you may notice here, it's actually set at 80%. So I want to set this, of course, as I indicated, at 90. So again, I can set individual match condition fuzziness at whatever I want it. In this case, 90%. All right. I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And now keep in mind too, currently I have no filter set. What that means is I'm able to filter my data, right, in several different ways that I want. It's important to be able to filter data because I might have a pretty large database, okay? Maybe I've got 250,000, 500,000, even several millions of records. I wouldn't want to run the match session against the entire database. It would take a long time and potentially return a lot of potential duplicates that I'd have to go through, right? So it's ideal to silo your data. In this case, maybe cut it up in 1/4 segments, depending again how big your database is, if it's, let's say, 500,000 or more. So I could say I want to just look through, if I want to cut it in half, I can say I want to look for accounts that start with A and start with A through M, right? So I can set up a filter for that. You can see I've got one already here, show me all those account names A through M only. And of course, I can then follow it up with N through Z. I could further define as A through E and then F through M and so on and so forth. I can also do postal code, right? So if I want to do it that way, or in the United States, we can maybe do it Northeast states, Southeast states, things like that. But it would allow me to manage my data much easier, okay? And of course, you would have match sessions for, A through M, M through Z, and so forth, all right? Okay, so I'm not going to apply a filter here because I won't need it. It's not a very large database. Say yes. So that's how easy basically it is to create this. I give it a name, I choose it as an account, I set the fuzziness both at the account name as well as the match conditions, and we're done. Now that I have the match session set up, I want to run it and go see if I have some duplicates. So if I right click on it and choose run session, I can hit this run. It will allow me to schedule it after hours, maybe on a Friday night at 6 p.m., right? So it doesn't disturb any of my users, but otherwise I'm going to say okay. Now we're not affecting any data at this point, we're simply doing a read, all right? And we can see here that it's looking at 1,404 records here, account records that I have in my system, and applying that criteria that we just set up. When I'm done, I get a nice little end of session report, if you will, which shows me the date, the time, how long it took, the number of potential groups of 2 or more records that it found that were duplicate, as well as the total number of accounts and the total number percentage of duplication, in this case about 4.2%, and how many records, of course, I went through as well. So when I'm done here, the next step is really to review and approve these potential duplicates. I can view the results here, or generally most of the time you're going to go in here, right click, and choose Review Session. When I do that, I get the review screen. Now the review screen's main purpose here is for me to make the decision, are these duplicates or not, okay? There's some other things I can do, I'll take you through, but that is really what I'm trying to do, and I'm trying to get through this as fast as possible. Now again, I probably would have already run this at 100% in Cleanzol, so I would have less here at this point. But there's still going to be potentially some false positives, right? So for example, I might have at 90% IBM, International Business Machines, and International Brotherhood of Machinists. And so it's my job to weed the ones that obviously are false positives. Now, to demonstrate the power of the fuzziness, I just want to point out a few of the records that came back here. So I have a group here on the left of 2 or more records, okay? In some cases, I have more than 2 records. So you can see for First Vision, I have 3, and you can see I've got 3 potential matching records here, okay? But I want to point out, though, you can see it came back with 1 vision with the numeral 1 vision with spelled out, right, O-N-E, and even has spaces, okay? So the important part here is that fuzziness is looking at 90% similar and saying, hey, I think these are potential matches, all right? Next, you can see some things, for example, like JAE. So we can see JAE, or Jupiter Astronomy Equipment Corporation, as well as the Jupiter Astronomy Equipment Corporation, right? So the beauty is, whether it's acronyms or some similarity at 90%, it's able to identify them as potential duplicates. Now you might notice that I have another Jupiter Astronomy Equipment Corporation here, and you might ask, well, why didn't all of those records go into that one group and just have 6 and 1 rather than 3 and 3? And this is where the address portion comes in, right? So the address has to be 90% similar. And in this case, this one's out of San Francisco, and this guy's out of San Ramon, California. So clearly these are different companies, but within each group, they're probably the same. So let's talk about the review process itself, right? So at the top up here, I'm going to start with First National Bank. Now, you can see that I have 2 records here. I'm always comparing the primary, what will be the surviving record here on the left side, and the duplicate that's selected here further on the list on the right. And the information in red is basically what I'm matching on, name and address. The information in blue is here to help me as the end user, the power user, to determine, are these truly duplicates? And so I can look very quickly here that they're both 1313 Mockingbird Lane out of Hollywood, California, right? And so these look very obvious to me as duplicates, okay? There's some additional information here that's on the duplicate that's not on what will be the surviving record. So for example, postal code, okay? So it's not on the surviving record, but as you imagine, when we do merge these, this information will be backfilled to any of the null or blank fields, and of course will create ultimately a better record. Obviously, all the contacts and any other one-to-manys that are part of this account will come over as well. And we'll point this out here shortly. Okay, so this one looks obvious to me that it's a duplicate, so I could just double click on it or hit F9 or hit the checkbox up here, and it will in fact then approve it for merge. So only things that have a green check mark will actually be merged. So if I'd stop now and go run the merge tool, it will only, out of all of these, merge the one. But I'm going to continue on here. So I can look at First Vision and see, well, let's take a look at these guys here, right? So I'm going to look at the second record here. Looks pretty similar to me, except I've noticed that this has type vendor and this does not. And in my world, if it's a vendor, that means that this is a duplicate by design. This is also a supplier of ours that we will purchase off of, but they may also be a customer, right? So in this case, I actually don't want to merge these 2 records. So I can actually select this one and hit exclude. And of course, now what will happen is if this last record here, and it looks like a duplicate as well, it's going to only merge these 2 records and it will exclude this one. So you have that ability to make some exceptions within the group itself, okay? You can put some comments on here if you wanted to do that as well. And you can even put a comment on the group as well. Now, if you're looking at the next one, like 3 acres, you may say these definitely look to me like they're duplicates, but maybe you have a question, you can mark things off as questionable, and you can even mark stuff as no, I don't want to do it at all. Now, again, the only things with a check mark will actually merge. But these are great because you can actually export these different categories that you've marked up here and then share these with the data owners and say, hey, look, I've had some questions, anything with a question mark I want you to look at, I'm going to export this out to you. and then they can say yay or nay, those are duplicates. I can, of course, export just the result of what I'm going to actually merge to as well, okay? So now as we go through here, if this was, especially with this 100%, maybe I spot checked the top few here, they were all duplicates, and I can, of course, hit the shift key and select multiples if I want, or if I have hundreds at a time, I can hit this little lightning bolt and say just mark everything as reviewed, and I'd be done, right? At 90%, I'd still probably want to go through each one of these, but this, the process is pretty fast because you get pretty good as you go through here, just training your eye on the information in blue and making sure that these in fact are duplicates, okay? All right, I'm only going to have one marked off for duplicate, okay? I'm going to preserve some of my demo data here. So we are going to merge just First National Bank only. I'm going to go ahead and close this up, and I just want to jump back into CRM here and just show you that we do have First National Banks. There are two of them, as we saw in the review screen. If I jump into each one of these, we will see that I have a couple different contacts, which should, of course, come over. We can see here that I got Dana Austin and Rob Starr, and then on the next one, I've got, looks like another Dana Austin and a Mary White. So obviously, when I'm done, I'll have one First National Bank with 4 contacts on it, right? All right. And any information that was on the other will be merged into it, okay? So, and in fact, real fast, just want to point this out. We go back into this review session. If you look here, we can see that the phone numbers are different. We'll talk about that, how we deal with that. Things like postal code is on the duplicate, so that should come over, and the web URL. So that one remaining record should have all this information when we're done. Okay, let's jump over and do a merge then. So if I go into Tools and go into this Infor plugin, keep in mind that I will need to have admin access, okay? So I have to come in as full admin rights. And here in the Merge tool, I can run reports either against my accounts that I'm going to run or my contacts, and it's really nice because I can get very defined on what information I'm going to share with my data owners to say, hey, here's the things that I have identified in this match session that I want to merge, okay? And of course, this could be shared with the users and they can make decisions and maybe say, oh, actually, I don't want these merged, or that only a few of these and so forth, right? But we're here to merge. So I have the choice of merging either accounts or contacts here. So obviously we're going to do an account merge, and we are going to merge this 90% and full address 90%. And so I've already run this guy before, so it's going to show up here. And this is important to note. Once you've set up these match sessions, right, you're just going to run these periodically for whatever your organization needs, right? Maybe it's once a month if I have a large organization. Maybe it's once every 3 months or twice a year. But it's nice is once you've set up these match sessions and kind of made them all fit, and you have your several that you're going to run periodically, you can just do that and keep your database clean going forward. All right. So I do want to show you. I'm going to edit this guy just so I can show you some of the basics here. Just shows which match session this guy's set up with, which we already know. And here under the duplicate processing rules, I have some power to configure some things. What's going to be done during this merge, right? Obviously, I want to merge all my accounts and associated records, any of the duplicates, that's fine. I also have the decision to either keep the account records and maybe change the ownership. Okay, we can remove it so that no one sees them, or we can actually remove them completely, right? Which I don't want to do. I would like to keep at least a record of them, at least initially, and then maybe later do a purge of them, right? For those records that are Paribus merged, if you will. Now, I can create history records basically for any of those duplicates that were reassigned. And if you are using the old LAN client with even remotes, we can even synchronize the changes to the remote databases. And we can even keep track here on the remote systems of who hasn't synced yet, so we can make sure those people sync and get those changes, okay? Now, some additional things we can do here is I do want to change any levels of the rules at either the account or the contact level. I can go into the merge rules here. And for the accounts, I can decide, do I want to for the contacts, do I want to reassign ownership, right, or not? I can do things like that. I can also decide from the contact level, what kind of child entities do I want to come over or not come over as part of that merge. I can do that as well. And of course, the same goes for the accounts. Do I want to bring in some additional custom entities, or do I want to exclude those? You have the power, a great deal of it, to really configure the merge to meet your needs as you need, okay? All right, so I basically have everything done the way I want it, so I'm gonna say, okay, I've reviewed everything, we're great. I'm gonna go ahead and run this session. So if I click on Run Session here, It's just going to give me one last chance to modify the rules that you just saw. I won't have to do that because I just checked it. And then, of course, the screen that says, hey, look, are you aware that what you're about to do is going to affect your data? And of course, I know this. Everything I've done, by the way, up to now, the review screen, the creating the match sessions, all that stuff, none of that has affected any of my data. But at this point, of course, I'm going to run a merge and I am going to change data. And so there is no magic undo button, and you're just verifying that. So go ahead and say next. And of course, now I'm just going to go ahead and process these duplicates. Again, I only have the one First National Bank set up, so it should only merge that guy, and all those other groups that it found will be left untouched until I'm ready. At the end of a merge, you get a nice little report to show, hey, what when you merged it, what you merged, and all the tables that were affected. Okay, were there any errors, and the total number of records that were moved and so forth, right? You also have this great audit detail, which shows you, hey, here's all of the groups of records I merged. In this case, it was just First National Bank, okay? And of course, you can see here that this guy was merged into that, which is now our surviving record. And then again, all of the affected fields that were taken care of, okay? I'm gonna show this to you now, of course, back into CRM. The merge is complete. I've got a cleaner database already. If I wanna go back into CRM, here's those two records. Currently, I haven't refreshed this yet. They were available to everybody, but I'm logged in currently as the admin. So if I do a refresh on here, I can see now that this guy is the record that was, of course, merged into the surviving record. We can see that the security has changed, Paribus hidden item. So I can, of course, look for those later and delete them in a SQL statement if I want. But at this point, if I want to go now into this record, I should see all the information, including the contacts that were here. So if I go into here, I can see then whatever changes that were made. We can see now this has a URL and it didn't. It also has, of course, the contacts here, right? So the contacts are now also here as well, right? So, and of course, I've got two Dana Austins, which when I go in my contact merge, those will be removed as well, right? So that's how we run the merge. Okay, so I want to come back into our slideshow and just kind of wrap it up. So from the takeaway standpoint, obviously the ability to merge hundreds or thousands of records at one time. We can save those match sessions as templates and just continue to cleanse our data on a periodic basis, whatever meets your needs. And of course, the real important thing now is where we had all of these Bob Smiths, right? And as a user, I'm frustrated. Mr. Smith is unhappy that I can't find information that he's calling about. Of course, we now have that one single master golden record that is even better than it was before, with all the data coming from the duplicates over, okay? Which, by the way, I want to point one other thing out here that I forgot to show you. I knew there was something, and that is going back here real fast, from an end user standpoint, okay? If, for example, on this record, I can see we've added actually 3 tabs: associations, Paribus audit, and the merge repository. On the audit, just shows, hey, that I have merged a previous record with this. Okay, great. So I can see that there has been a merge. So if I actually were to make a call to this account and the number is disconnected, for example, I know now that there was a merge that's taken place. If I go to the merge repository, okay, it will actually retain the fields that were already on the surviving record, right? But these are the fields that came from the duplicates. So in here, I probably have a phone number. As we know, there was a phone number, as we can see here, that was part of the duplicate. So now I can go, oh, let me try that number instead. We haven't lost that data that we merged into it. It's now here in the repository. If I find that this number actually works and I want to replace this, I can just hit these little arrows and it will actually then refresh this. So now going forward, this record has the correct information. So any information that came from those duplicates that maybe there was already some data on the fields will now be down here on the merge repository. And we'll of course show you the associated duplicate record that you can always go back to as well if you have the security rights. So just wanted to point that back out real fast, okay? So, and that's what, again, makes it extremely important to have restored this single customer view. All of the information is now in one concise record, and the information from the duplicates is now there. All right. Of course, this all will enhance the user efficiency, right? Having that one now single record makes a much better experience for me, as well as, of course, for the customer. And now I can provide better customer service, ultimately reducing my cost, both from a labor standpoint, right, efficiency standpoint, and of course, in real world material costs. Those marketing campaigns and those emails that you're sending out that cost money per contact you're sending out every time you run a campaign, or if you are using any kind of mailers and so forth, which have made a big comeback, you're not sending those out to duplicate people. And of course, you know, being data is a lifeblood of your system, you now have much more accurate reporting and better decisions being made. All right. So that wraps us up for the day. I wanted to thank you guys. If you want more information or you want to try out a free trial, you can either reach out to your Infor partner or you can reach out to us directly here at QWare. You can also reach out via our website. Just search Paribus 365, and we're also on Twitter and LinkedIn at Paribus 365. And of course, you have my details below here if you want to reach out to me directly. And I just want to thank you all today for your time. As mentioned, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them now in the questions pane. Otherwise, for the rest of you, hope you guys have a great rest of your day and week.